Hello and welcome to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Rachael is a speaker, inspirational author, and an overcomer. As Rachael is walking through her own journey of grief, she's challenging others to persevere and overcome their own circumstances. Find out more at rachelflick.com. Here now is your host, Rachael Flick.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. Today I get to bring you a previously recorded episode with one of sports' greatest athletes, Darryl Strawberry. Darryl is a former American professional baseball right fielder who played in Major League Baseball for over 17 seasons. He helped lead the New York Mets to a World Series championship in 1986 and the New York Yankees to 3 World Series championships in 96, 98, and 99. Side by side with his incredible athleticism were multiple suspensions due to his use of drugs and prostitutes. In his story, Darryl talks about the transforming love of Christ, and he and I dig into his story of kind of his origin story and how he became the athlete that he is today and the parts that his mother and his wife played in stepping him forward into a life of healing and wholeness past the drugs and the addiction. After you listen to this episode of the Hopecast, I highly recommend you check out the new documentary that Darryl released called Once Upon a Time in Queens. It's a 30 for 30 episode on ESPN+. It's about how he helped lead the New York Mets to the World Series in 86. And it's such an interesting story looking in on all the characters that helped make that championship possible. Here now is part 1 of my interview with Darryl Strawberry. Hey, Darryl, thank you so much for joining me today on the Hopecast.
Thanks for having me, Rachael. I really appreciate you taking your time out to have me on your Hopecast.
Absolutely. It's an honor. It's an honor. I told some friends that I got to talk to you today, so we're going to have to grab a picture afterwards.
Well, that'd be great. I have no problem with that.
That would be awesome. So you have your story precedes you. You're one of those legends in the sporting world, and your story has captivated many, many people.
Well, I think everybody has a story in life, and we all go through something. I think for me, it was just the public opinion about who I was, because I was an athlete and I played at such a high level. And of course, I played in New York City. So the spotlights is always on you when you're playing in a big city. So I had to get accustomed to that and get used to being who I was. And was it uncomfortable a lot of times? Yeah. But I think the challenges of it was real. Yeah. I think because you can play sports or you can do anything and you can achieve anything if you have the desire. But the key is, are you well on the inside? And I think a lot of times people don't recognize that. They just think because you put a uniform on and you make millions of dollars and you live behind community gates, you should be well. And what they fail to realize is money does not make you well. You know, there's a deep, empty hole that's on the inside of all of us at some point in time in our life, and do we allow God to heal us? And so I was in a process where I wasn't healed and I was just living, and I was living in a dark tunnel for many years. I was very successful. I had the strength to be able to play ball, but I didn't have the courage to live according to what my mother wanted me to live.
Yeah. So you alluded to that, right? You had the money, the fame, the women, the traveling, you know, all of those things. I would love it if you would take us back and tell us what it was like for you growing up. What was your home like? What was your neighborhood like?
Well, my home life was very dysfunctional. My dad was a raging alcoholic, and he didn't have a great personality. He was very abusive, and you know, he came home all the time, you know, drunk and loud and just crazy. And you know, for the last time, I think when I was about 13, 14 years old, we came home and one of those nights, and we just had it. We woke up, and my older brother Mike just said, "Why don't you get out here and leave us alone?" He pulls out a shotgun and says, "You're going to kill the whole family." So My mother, she goes into action and she looks at us and she gives us this look on her face like, get out of the house,
Right.
because my brother Ronnie had went in the kitchen and grabbed a butcher knife, and I went in the kitchen and grabbed a frying pan, so we were about to go to work. And
he pulled out a shotgun.
Yeah, he pulled out a shotgun, but we didn't know my mother had taken the shells out of the shotgun beforehand, but we didn't know
Smart
at that particular time. So we were going into a safety mode
Fight or
place,
flight. Absolutely.
to be able to protect our
Life
mother.
or death.
Yes, to be able to protect our mother and protect ourselves, because we've seen this so many times, and that was the end of it there. We got out of the house, she got us out, and she was, really happy the fact that she got us out, because she saw in our eyes that we were very serious that night and we wasn't playing anymore.
And so she left your dad at that point?
She did. She asked him to move out of the house, and we came back the next day and he never returned again. That was the end of that, and she went on to file for a divorce, and we realized that he was never going to be around again. So that was a really happy moment for us as kids.
I can only imagine the relief.
Yeah, it was a big one. When you think about it, I think a lot of times people don't recognize what people go through. They just assume that we should have it all together because we look like we have it all together.
Right.
And in reality, a lot of homes don't. And
No.
it's so unfortunate that that has to happen in our society, and kids pay the price. At some point in time, they're going to pay the price from a broken home.
Yeah.
And I think our society don't realize that and recognize that. So, I was no different than anybody else growing up. I grew up in South Central LA and went to Crenshaw High, and I played sports, and I achieved a lot of great things. But at the same time, those periods of my early days of growing up was real struggles. I got into a lot of trouble. I got kicked out of like 4 different junior high schools, and they just kind of said, let's move him on to high school because he's just terrible here. He's taking money, he's doing all kind of things, setting
Moving
bathrooms
along.
on fire, I was in the midst of smoking marijuana at the age of 14, and so I was already started down the wrong road.
Yeah. So did you witness domestic violence between your parents?
I witnessed my father being, very, very abusive. I don't really ever had a chance to see him put his hands on our mother, because we would have killed him if we'd have saw that.
Really protective of mom.
Yeah, we were. There was no doubt about it. If we just had saw anything like that, it probably would have been over. And thank God we didn't, because I know me and my brothers in the way we were thinking.
Yeah.
We wasn't playing. We were young, but we were very serious about our mom. We loved our mom,
Yeah.
and she raised 5 of us, and we knew that she was the key to us being anything successful in life. It was gonna be because of her and because of the kind of woman she was.
You talk about some of those acting out behaviors, which makes complete sense, right? In that home environment, and the violence and the fear. What were some of the other ways that you were coping with that stress? Were you dreaming? Would you come home? You know what I mean? Like, some kids just won't come home, right? They're gonna play, until the streetlights come on. Like, what did that look like for you to get through those years?
I wouldn't come home when he was at home a lot of times. I wait till he'd go to work. He'd go to work in the afternoon, so I just kind of hang out around the neighborhood and drink and smoke weed, and just to escape.
Yeah.
My other brother, he got into a lot of trouble. He got into a lot of bad behavior. He got into breaking in homes and stealing people's stuff, getting guns, and I just never went down that road. I never went down the road of picking up guns and stuff like that, because I just felt like I would have ended up hurting somebody. And that could have been the end of my life. So I started to dream, once he was out of the house. I started to dream big. I started to entertain myself in sports and liking sports and watching baseball on television. And I could see from the television that's who I was going to be. And I just saw myself doing that. And people would think, well, how could you do that? How could you actually do that? It's like, when you're in pain, you can believe in something far greater than you can ever imagine. And that's what it was for me. The pain was there, and I had to believe in something far greater than myself, because my father rejected me, and he said I wouldn't never be anything. So it was a disbelief system there, between me and him. So I had to prove him wrong that I was going to be someone. So once I started watching baseball on television, I just started telling myself I'm going to play baseball and I'm going to play in the major leagues. I was 14 years old.
So you never played before 14?
No.
Wow.
Yeah, because of the dysfunction of the home. My father was never available to put me in Little League or come watch me play or anything like that. So I just kind of just looked at it from a distance and realized that, hey, this looks fun, and I'm going to try it. And I tried every sport, and I was good at all sports because sports was really like the outlet for who I was, because of the pain.
Yeah.
So I had to really stuff the pain and get involved in playing sports to get away from the thoughts of, the household, what it was like, and he was no longer there. So once he was out of the house, I became so free inside of myself. And when I say free, I said to myself, no one will ever control me like that ever again.
That's a powerful vow. That is a powerful vow right there.
Yeah.
No one will ever control me like that again.
No one. I clearly lived it out in my whole life that no one would ever control me. No one would dominate me like that again. Even when I was playing sports and coaches and, they got in my face, and when they got in my face, it was the wrong thing to do because I would just disappear, I'm done.
Just
because
quit. I won't be controlled.
I won't be controlled anymore. I didn't want to be controlled like that. I had to go through that for so long in the household and running that type of fear. I just didn't want to be that person anymore.
Yeah. So your dad said that you would never amount to anything. Was sports an outlet to give you a different message of affirmation?
I think sports was very challenging, and I like that, because I didn't have a father figure in my life to challenge me to try to achieve something.
Right.
So I really had to do it on my own. It was a driving force that came from within inside of myself that I was going to challenge myself. Like I said before, I realized playing in the neighborhood, playing sports, pickup ball and different things, and I realized that, hey, I'm pretty good, but what would it be like once I joined a team? And I hadn't joined a team until I was after 14 years old, and I joined the team and started playing low league baseball, and then I became pretty good at it. I was like a force, because I had this vision inside of myself that I'm going to dominate because of what happened to me.
It's almost like as a reaction to what he had said, you were going to prove him wrong.
It was a reaction, and I think either you're going to prove him wrong, or he's going to win. It's going to stay in your head. See, for my brother Ronnie, it stayed in his head, and he became self-destructive, because of he couldn't get out of not being anything. And me, I took it the other way. My driving force was to believe that I was going to be something, that I was going to achieve something, and I wasn't going to be like my father.
So what did that start to do for your sense of self and identity as you discovered that you really had a natural affinity for this?
It started to direct me in a direction of real hope. More than you can ever imagine. Because when you look at your life and you come from this dysfunctional home and you take all these beatings, you used to have to lay on the bed and take your shirt off, and he would beat you with an extension cord thicker than this.
Yeah.
And you just had to lay there and take it, and you felt like nothing. You felt like a piece of crap. And you felt like you couldn't defend yourself because he was so strong and you was young. And then all of a sudden he's gone, and there was this great sense of hope for me. This great sense of belief system started to come in me, that one day I'm going to do something great and take care of my mother. Because my focus was not on me, it was on my mother. It was on her.
Take care of her.
Yeah, it was on her being rejected, her being verbally abused, talked to, down, or whatever he did from time to time, pull on her or whatever. But I just realized that I wanted her to have a better life, and that was my driving force. That was the hope that came inside of me. I could have laid down and been like my brother Ronnie and gave up and quit. And he still today struggles because he doesn't know how to win. And I learned from quitting. When I quit in high school one day on the baseball team, my freshman year, the coach thumped me in the head when I was walking off the field and said, "Don't ever walk off this field." I took the uniform off and threw it in his face and quit. And I realized from there that
a little bit self-destructive.
you do not ever quit, no matter what it is, no matter how hard it is, no matter what the circumstances are. You do not quit. You persevere, you press through, and you don't give up. And no matter what comes against you, and that was a great learning lesson for me, to never quit in life, because life is going to bring you some situations and challenges that you're going to have to face, and how do you deal with them? If you quit, you never know that you can achieve the things that are in front of you. So that was a great learning lesson for me, not to ever do that again.
I love hearing about just your care and your love for your mom. Would you say that you're protective of people that you love?
Yeah. When you grow up in a home like that, and you have a male figure in the home, and he's not available and he's checked out, you become the male figure in the home. And me and my brothers became that, and our focus was to be better. Didn't understand why we had to go through what we had to go through, but we did. But how can I be better than that, what he was? How can I be a father where one day I may be a father, and I will never push my kids to the side. Even though I had struggles and issues, I never pushed my kids to the side. I never saw them as a problem. It was like we were such a problem.
Yeah.
We were in the way. We were in the way for his busy time, fun time, drinking, women. We were in the way of his life. And that's very sad, when you go through that as a kid, and you have to live through that, and you see your mother on the other side, and you see her as so loving and so caring, and all she cares about is her kids living right, treating others right, the way she did. And I think that watching that, really was able to take me a long ways in life of learning how to treat people, because of what I saw with my mother.
Do you think you would have had even half of your achievements if you had grown up in a safe home?
I would have had half of them. I probably would have had the whole truckload of it if I would have grew up in a house with, some discipline and some peace.
You feel like you would have achieved even more?
Oh, no question about it.
Okay.
I even achieved a lot, and I was broken. All those years of playing sports and just being out on the field. High school, I was broken. Little League, I was broken. When I got into the professional sports, I was completely broken. Now, I was broken even more because now money has come on top of it. And money has started to play a big play in your life, something that I wasn't overly crazy about. That wasn't my number one dream. My number one dream was my mom, and now all of a sudden you get this, and you become rich. When you become rich and famous and live in that life, nobody never tells you no. And it's the craziest thing I ever seen in my life, when you become famous, that you get free food, you go to restaurants.
You're like, I have
food.
money, and you're not making me pay for it.
Yeah, you're like, I can pay for my dinner. And you go to the clothing store, they want to give you clothes. It was just the most craziest thing that I ever seen. I was thinking to myself, there's so many people out there that are struggling that would need this, and you give it to people who have everything. I was thinking our society, even back then, I was thinking our society is so backwards, of the way they treat, one from a celebrity place and just an ordinary person. You treat them so different, you treat this one like, he's golden, because he has a talent, but you will treat this other person this way. And I always saw that as not being fair.
That's really interesting. Did you have that perspective while it was happening, or has that been something like in your recovery and healing process that you look back on and have perspective? Because that's definitely a 30,000 foot view, right? Like, you're coming out of poverty and violence and struggling, and now you're the golden child and you can do no wrong. Like, did you have that eye at that time?
I did. I had it when I was young. I had it because I loved the fact that I was able to achieve what I wanted to achieve, but I didn't let it have me. And people say, well, how did you get lost? I got lost because I was broken.
It sounds like you started lost.
Yeah, it's loss is real. Being lost is real. People don't understand. They think you could get all this other stuff, and all it does is covers up what's really wrong.
Yeah.
And the problem was deep inside of me. It was bedded inside of me. Didn't have a father. And when a boy doesn't have a father in his life, it's very complicated. And I think a lot of boys never like to talk about it, but it's an empty place. When you don't have that male figure in your life, and you don't have the one sitting there to cheer you on, to encourage you. And mom's working hard to take care of 5 kids. So her daily life is busy, up every morning and down every day, resting, and because she's got to do it every day to take care of 5 kids. So so we had to, I had to figure out, what's important, what's really important. And what was important was me not being important. Everybody else made me important, but I never made myself important. People can understand that, because you can get caught up in making yourself more important than you think you are. And it all just go completely to your head. And I think people used to see and say, well, he's the nicest guy. He'll give you the shirt off his back. Yeah, because, I came from nothing. So all this didn't mean anything. Accomplishing all the things I wanted to accomplish, I did. But I'm saying what came with it, that didn't mean anything to me. I'd rather give it away and then let other people be happy. So that was my feeling about life, when I was being successful. It's just give it to other people, and God's been good to me. I don't know why he was good to me. I would just think, I used to always think about it when I was playing. I was like, God, I didn't even know him. And I was saying, why are you so good to me? Why not be good to some of these other people? Because I've seen so many other people hurting and needed things. So I would always be sure to make sure I took care of other people.
Yeah. So one of the things that fathers impart to their children is identity, right? And you didn't have that.
No.
And not even did you not have it, but you had the opposite of it, where your heart and your character were being attacked. What were some of the beliefs that you carried as you started to get successful in baseball? What did you believe about yourself? Because those limiting beliefs, defeating beliefs, I'm confident those fed into your story and the self-medication.
Well, my belief system was to love people, because I didn't receive that from my dad.
Yeah.
But I received it from my mother.
Did you feel worthy of love?
Yes. From my mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. She loved all of us, which was incredible. She didn't have no favorite. It was just like she loved us all the same. Yeah. And her principles were so cool and so real. Just the way she conducted herself and the way she treated other people. She didn't come to a place of treating people different because her son was very successful. She didn't see my success. She wasn't concerned with that. She wasn't consumed with that. She was concerned that we would treat people right. And, because I think she had saw us being treated wrong, from our father. And she realized that she didn't want us to grow up and be like that. She was more concerned that we would grow up and we would have a great foundation and the right principles about life. And I saw that from my mother. I saw her heart. I saw her love towards us. I saw her love towards other people. And it was just incredible. It was incredible to see a little bitty woman, petite woman, be so strong and so real. And that really was my driving force. That's what really kept me in that place of having the right courage and the right attitude. Was I a little crazy? Yeah. But it always came back to me when I did stupid stuff. Yeah. I used to say to myself, boy, your mother didn't raise you like that. Yeah. And I know that was so true. So that really kept me in a humble place to not, really lose sight of really what was really important in life. Yeah, I lost sight of a lot of other things and doing a lot of other things, but what was really important in life was the character that my mother showed us and wanted us to live. I knew that. I knew that for sure, and I'm grateful for that. Woman.
Yeah. Hey, Darryl, we're coming up against the clock, but there's so much more I want to talk to you about. Could we extend this for a second part?
I would love to do that.
Awesome. Okay, we'll talk to you next week on the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.
All right, thank you.
You've been listening to the Hopecast with Rachael Flick. To find out more, go to rachelflick.com. While you're there, you can book Rachael for your next speaking engagement. Her inspiring message will be sure to engage and touch the heart of your audience at your next conference, church event, or business function. Go to rachelflick.com to book her today. While you're online, you can discover more information about all of the platforms that this podcast is on. Also, be sure to click on the social media icons at the top of the page, and you will be directed to Rachael's social media sites. If you listen to the show on Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate if you would subscribe and leave us a review. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time for another edition of the Hopecast with Rachael Flick.